What is good, y'all? John D. Saunders here. Happy to be here and excited to jump into this video. Today, we're talking about the brand identity design process. This is the 2021 edition, the newest one in full effect. I'm going to be breaking down why it's important to have an identity and how to cultivate one for your web design brand or for your clients. So let's go ahead and dive in and I'll show you how it's done. First things first, why do you need a brand identity? One, a brand identity looks like this. It's an amazing way to showcase your brand and have continuity across the board. Whether it's social media, letterheads, billboards, whatever you have, you create that continuity. And what that does is that makes your brand give it perceived value. It gives it perceived value because that you have that consistency and you're looked at as a premium brand because you have all these assets that are consistent in regards to color palette, design, look and feel. Also, if you think about it, it creates a trust between you and the client, right? When you have that consistency across the board, they can tell that you're putting a lot of emphasis and work into your designs, so they know that they're getting a great product when they're collaborating with you. Lastly, it builds and maintains loyalty. So when you have that loyalty and that continuity across the board, when a customer sees your color palette, they see your branding, they know that it's a trustworthy brand that they can work with. So one, I'm going to show you a few brand identities that we've done and the way that we get that process going. I'm also going to supply you with our kind of step-by-step process in which we develop and create these designs. The great thing about this is you don't necessarily have to have a design background to be able to leverage this, because you can always hire amazing designers, but you have to make sure that you give them a process to work from. So let's go ahead and dive in. I'm going to open my computer and screen share, and we're going to get this done. Let's go ahead and do this, y'all. First thing I'll start with is just showing you our job template. Now, this is a Google Sheet, very simple and effective in regards to building out your brand identity. And so everything in green is kind of part of our branding / UI and UX design process. So I'm going to kind of break this down for you. So I'm going to skip this client onboarding and prospect stuff. I'm going to go straight into the guts of this, brand discovery. So what we usually like to do is capture initial info. So we'll create a logo board, we'll create a mood board, and then we'll add those items to Asana. So that way we have all these resources that we can give to our designer. So instead of a designer saying, hey, instead of us going to our designer saying, hey, can you make this for us or design a logo, they have a brand discovery document, which I'll go over in a few. They have a mood board and an art board so they can see the kind of design and aesthetic that we're going for. And this gives them an overview of how we want that design to be laid out. So let's go ahead and walk through that process. So first thing we do is the brand discovery. This is about an hour session where we talk about the brand and break it down with the client. So we might talk about the brand name, their URL, and then we ask vetting questions like what services you provide. Tell us a little bit about your brand. What's your vision, your core values? These are the things that will help resonate and help us create a brand that coincides with the consumer they're looking to target. Also, we talk about some of the brands that they love, because you can always borrow from great brands that are doing the right thing in your vertical. You're not necessarily copying, but you're looking to them for motivation and inspiration when you're creating these designs. Some other questions might be, what's your USP? What's your unique selling proposition? What differentiates you from the competition? We also talk about target buyer, target audience. And so the brand discovery is basically like a mind dump that you perform with a client to capture all this information, all this data when you're going in to design your logo. What I also like to do is kind of show them some logo concepts. I'll literally go to Dribbble, and this is a fun concept. While you're on the call with a client, you can go to Dribbble, look up logos and say, hey, which of these logos and designs stand out to you? You literally go to Dribbble, hit branding, and then you can go, instead of following, go to popular, and it will show you popular logos and designs that resonate with folks. And you can ask the client, hey, which of these stand out to you? This is going to help you in turn create your mood board, right, for your designer, because your designer is going to say, okay, well, if they like this type of aesthetic, that means that we can replicate this across the board when we're doing these logo designs. So this is a great way to give your designer ammunition, right, for them to be able to shoot that logo gun. I know that's corny, but please bear with me, guys. But ultimately giving them all these assets that they can use later on. So going back to the job template, you perform that brand discovery session with a whole bunch of questions like this that gives them details and specifics on how you want that brand to be. Now you can create your logo or mood board. Now here's an example. We like to use Figma. You can use a tool called Markup, where you literally take screenshots of a website, put them in a document, and then you're going to give this link to your designer when they're going to design and create your brand identity for your customer. So with that being said, here's one we're working on for a client. You can see that I've added some screenshots here. We're looking for a dark, clean, kind of tech-centric look. So what I'll do is I'll add these in, but then I'll also add comments. So if you hit this comment button here, you can see that I added here, great typography and love the gradient use here, right? You'll also see something like great image use, right? This is a really cool image that they've used here in regards to the design. Love the gradient over text. So you're giving the designer all these assets and things that they'll be able to use. We also like to do logo artboards as well for inspiration as well. So if you go here, let me show you an example here so you can kind of get an idea. You'll do an artboard like this for logos also. So you can do it for web design, for logo design, and you're creating a repository for the designer to go ahead and reference and be able to use. So in this case, I have logos because we were doing a logo design for a client. And you can see some of my comments here were great color palette, great in color and inverted, right? This logo looks great on both ends. And then the result becomes something like this, where you have designs that are distinct, that are appealing, and that work really well for the client. Let that load up. So you can see we've taken some of those inspirations and used them in that logo design. So going back to this job template, and again, this is just a list that we follow, that we use in Asana to make sure that we're tracking all of our efforts. Now with the brand discovery done, I can be able to give the brand discovery, the logo artboard, the mood board, and everything that the designer would need to make a really great asset for the customer. Now, once the brand discovery is done, remember that's the brain dump. That's when we're dumping all of this information data into this doc. Then you're going to create a brand guideline doc. And this is the document that you're going to use to create your brand identity. So this is crucial to the process. And the way that you create this brand guideline doc is via the brand discovery. You're taking all this information, all this mind dump info, and you're organizing it into a document like this, where we have the brand name here, we have the tagline, we have, of course, an introduction about the brand, about the vision, their core services and targeting. We talk about tone, location. These are the primary things you need for your brand identity. This is it. You don't need a ton. These are the main components. I'll go over them again. Introduction, about, vision, core services and targeting, their overall tone, location, and then we just put additional info here for when we're creating the brand assets like social media collateral, business cards, and so forth. And so what this turns into is now we have the logos, right? The designer has an idea of what we're looking for. Now, once the logo is approved by the client, we provide the designer with this brand guideline doc and info. And what they do is they turn this into this. Go ahead and open this PDF. And now we have a brand identity. Let me download it so it's easier for us to view in real time. Because now what's going to happen is when they look at that guideline doc, they already have the logo, they already have a color palette, they already have an overall typography. So now it's going to be really easy for them to be able to create this brand identity. So this is an exact replica of this text-based content. And we usually go over this with the client so we can get approval prior to designing out the brand identity. All right, so this is what the identity looks like. You most likely have an introduction, about, the vision and core services and targeting, tone, brand mark. So as you can see, this is pretty much the same layout as the document here. So you can see core services and targeting. If I go here, core services and targeting, we have the target demo and we have the target beneficiaries as well, as you can see here. So it's essentially taking all that information, all the details that you've already gone through and created for the brand, and translating that into a document like this that you can showcase to the client. And now what's great about having a brand identity is you can leverage this in your website design. Now, when you're working with a designer or developer, they have an overall aesthetic and they understand in detail what you're looking for. So to go back to here, we've been approved, we have the brand guidelines doc, and now our designer starts to work on additional assets like the open graph image, favicon, web clip, all that good stuff. And that's pretty much the brand identity process. So to break it down for you and recap, you start with that brand discovery. That's that about hour session where you're asking questions to the client and gathering as much data and information as you can. And then you walk through the process of getting all those assets and information for your designer, pass it over to your designer. They're going to go ahead and execute at a high level because now they have all the details that they need. And then they'll go ahead and output that brand identity. So again, thank you all for checking out this video. I try to be as thorough and detailed as possible. All this stuff and all this content is available in my Web Design Studio Accelerator course. I'll drop the link below. But again, if you have any questions, I'm an open book, and I'll see you next week for the next video. Peace.